Good morning. Welcome to the QCIS channel, where you get your daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. My name is Leon Jones, and during this segment, I'm going to show you something that I hadn't shown before, and it deals with concrete. And I'm going to talk about setting forms in place. Now, it's very important that you understand this topic because the forms are very, very important. Now, right here, these are forms. They're on the ground, and they're pins. Now, the forms are put in place because they actually form the shape of the concrete. Let me give you an example, so you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. This curb and gutter right here. The reason why it looks very uniform is because they use what we call a curb machine. And on that curb machine, they had concrete that was a #1 slump. It was very tight. And the form was already embedded into the machine that formed this curve. Let's go over here to this sidewalk. Over here, you see how this sidewalk is uniformed. And we're actually going to expand this video into concrete, so you really understand concrete and why we use it. Now, I've gotten some questions about control joints, but forming. When you put the forms on correctly, your concrete is uniform. Now, let me show you some work that hasn't begun yet. I'm going to run back over here. Now, here, you got forms and you got pins. Right beneath, this is your pin that my foot is on. It's a steel pin, and this is a steel form. Now, generally, I like to see oil on these forms because when you remove the forms from the concrete, once it's set, it's much easier to take the forms off or remove the forms. Now, I'm going to show you some form work that is completed, so you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay, here's the form work that is completed. It's almost like railroad tracks without the railroad ties. Right here, this is the pin. They also have a string line, and you use a string line to make sure that the forms are put in straight. And of course, it's very important that you look at the forms from the outside. Look at the pins. Now you also look at the forms that are on the ground. Now again, I like my forms to be very, very clean. And they're pretty clean because forms have to be reused. And a number of jobs here in Indiana, they use concrete. Concrete is a good base. It's a little more expensive than asphalt, but all of your sidewalks use concrete. But your forms, they must be installed and they must be tight before any concrete can be poured. Now, I usually go back and check all of the form work to make sure the forms are where they're supposed to be. And construction, again, everything must be precise. You can see right now they're putting the forms in place. The pins, making sure that they're set. Take you up here by the string line. Now here's the string line. Now during construction you see a lot of tools out here like levels, permanent magic markers. So there's a lot of measuring that's taking place. Now I'm going to go back and show you how these forms are being set. Now you can see they use a level. Now this long instrument here that I'm pointing to, that's a screed. That's basically used to screed the concrete. It pre-finishes the concrete before they bring in the float and the broom finish. Something that's very important about concrete that I want to show you. The question is, why the broom finish? All right, hear my foot right here? That broom finish gives it that roughness so you don't slip. Generally, when concrete cures, concrete can be very, very slippery. And during the wintertime, once it freezes and you drive on it or walk on it, there's a chance that you will have a slip and fall. So you have all these broom marks inside the concrete here. Generally, they'll put the concrete down, screed it out, run a big bull float over the concrete, and once they complete the bull float, do some finishing with trowels, and then they run a broom finish. And why is it so white? It's so white because they use some curing compound. And I'm going to show you what this curing compound looks like. Now this concrete is whiter than it usually is. That curing compound was placed on this concrete to help it cure much faster than usual. Now the sun is out, but generally concrete sets. Now let me show you an area that they've already placed concrete. Here's an area right here. You see the white spots? That's the curing compound. Now you also see some red lines, some red chalk lines. Those are made with what we call a chalk string. Now, they put those red chalk lines in place because they're going to be saw cutting expansion joints. Now, this is an example of an expansion joint. And these are placed in concrete due to weathering. Because in the wintertime, concrete contracts. In the summertime, concrete expands. And what generally happens around these control joints, these right here, they saw cut them in. Now, you have about a half-inch cork board here. That's also a control joint. Concrete also moves. If you go across the bridge, they put metal expansion joints in the bridge. That's because every time they get the weight on it, it moves. And you want to keep everything moving. Because when it comes to concrete, you'll see a sign on a bridge that says road surface freezes before, well, bridge freezes before road surface. Well, because bridges can be a little bit more slippery. And you see now, you see the broom finish. That's what you get on concrete. And again, as concrete is curing, usually takes about 7 to 14 days to get it cured. They also put chalk lines in this concrete. It's very important that they set everything right when they place concrete. And generally, I test concrete. Test it for slump, I test it for air, and I test it for temperature, because I want to make sure that the concrete has the right strength. Doesn't have the right strength, I have to disregard the concrete. Because when I look at projects, I just don't look at projects today. I look at how's this project going to hold up 5 years from now. Now again, you see them over there, they're setting up the forms. They got the level going. This is the first stage into placing concrete. Got to make sure your form work is right. Now what they're doing, they're setting a level in place. I'm going to make sure we have a good grade for drainage. I'm going to go over here and show you what they're doing. Now they have to get a correct slope, because if the slope is bad, they will not account for drainage. You'll have puddling, and when there's puddling, there's a chance that a pedestrian walking on the sidewalk will slip. And when it comes to construction, there are a lot of liabilities involved with construction. So it is my job as an inspector to make sure that the contract specifications are maintained. And what I'm doing, I'm walking down a finished sidewalk, so you can see all the control joints. Again, there are two types. This is the cork board, and these are some of these, I call them fakes. They're put in with a trowel or a trowel, and then some of them are saw cut it in. Here in the curb and gutter, they're saw cut it. Now basically, they put in a control joint with these marks. It's like every 10 feet. That's why everything looks very uniform. And over here, this is the form work that we talked about. You have to set forms, make sure that they're placed correctly before concrete is placed. Now again, I check the pins, I check the cleanliness, and I'm just making sure that everything is set in place for concrete pour. Very important that the preliminaries are checked before the actual activity happens. And again, some of the forms, you have your plastic forms, your wooden forms, your 2x4s or your 2x6s here, and you also have metal forms as well, because you have some shapes that are irregular, like your radii out here. How do they form the radii? They use metal forms. Correction, they use plastic forms. They use plastic forms. So, what I have given you is a lesson on form work, concrete work, and how infrastructure involving concrete is constructed, control joints, how they make all of the infrastructure uniform, Again, everything is by plans. But my job as an inspector is to make sure that what is put on the plans is built right out here. So we take a dream or design and actually create it in real time. And again, thank you for viewing this video. That concludes this content on concrete work, formwork, curing compound, expansion joints. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for some content that we talk about on a social level, check out the 401 Talk Zone radio show. I do pre-recorded content, and I have live streams on Wednesday as well. Now, if you can't find the QCIS channel or the 401 Talk Zone radio show on YouTube, you can check both of those channels out on YouTube. Now, for the QCIS channel, I'll take it one step further. Since it's an educational channel, I put that up on LinkedIn. And before I go, these are also the pins that they use as well. But again, you check the QCIS channel out, and you check the 401 Talk Zone radio show channel. If you can't catch me on YouTube, on Twitter, and to repeat again, since I interrupted the content by showing you the pins that they use for setting the forms, you can check the QCIS channel out on my LinkedIn channel, since it's an educational channel. And once again, I thank you for viewing the QCIS channel. On this channel, I give you a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Until next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious day.